Friday, monsters.
Murder, murder news.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Murder, Murder News podcast, which also serves as a weekly meeting for our true crime cult. But don't worry, you've landed in the cult with all of the flower crowns and none of the flavor aid. If you're just finding us now, allow us to introduce ourselves. I'm your favorite crime-solving pixie, Angelina, and I'm here with the real housewife of true crime, Aurora. How are you doing?
I'm doing well-ish. Good enough.
Well-ish. You're carrying on.
Missing spooky season, but, pressing on.
It's sad. Like, I went into a store yesterday and all the Christmas stuff was set up. So now it's really just over immediately. Like, the very next day after Halloween, we're done. Sad.
That is really sad. I haven't been in any shops to see Christmas stuff yet. And I don't know how that works in Budapest, but I just don't want to. I don't want to see it.
No. Well, and I feel like after Christmas is over, like well into January, like Christmas people still have their Christmas things going. Like, why can't us spooky folks be doing that too,
Well,
just carry
you
it on.
should know that I'm still wearing my Halloween nails, even though our listeners can't see them. I have my press-on spooky nails that I will keep on until they fall off.
Yeah, that's a good way to keep it alive.
Yes. And of course, we consider all of our listeners to be honorary monsters. But if you'd like to make it official and join the MMN commune for real, you can do that at patreon.com/murdermurdernews. There you can show your support for all we do by making a monthly pledge of whatever amount you like, whether you've got a few extra bucks or a few hundred. Ooh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Let's manifest that. Yeah.
Yes. And to show how much we appreciate your support, we'll give you a shout out on the show, send you a bit of murder merch, and give you a cool title like Deacon or Grandmaster of Goats. Plus, you'll have exclusive access to our regular Patreon-only content. We've recently posted our Halloween special episode for October, where our Patreons can learn about the true history of the haunted Annabelle doll from the Conjuring movies. Keep an eye out for what's next. We do post a Patreon exclusive at the end of the month.
We also want to give a shout out to our newest patron, Latte. Latte is a deacon of goats.
Latte!
Welcome to the coat, Latte. And we hope you enjoy your own baby goat, who we have named Clarice.
We love Clarice, and we love you, Latte.
Yeah, we love you both. Now, before we dig in, let's take a look at some of the true crime stories that made headlines this week.
U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan granted prosecutors' request this week to let witnesses and alleged victims testify anonymously in an upcoming trial against Ghislaine Maxwell. Judge Nathan agreed that this will prevent witnesses from declining to cooperate out of fear of public exposure and harassment. And she pointed to famous cases against R. Kelly and NXIVM founder Keith Raniere, whose trials both allowed anonymous testimony. The British socialite has been in jail since her arrest back in July of 2020 on charges of recruiting and grooming teen girls for her and her associate, Jeffrey Epstein, to abuse.
Yuck.
Yeah, so yuck.
When 60-year-old John Eisenman Sr. of Spokane, Washington, learned that his teenage daughter had been allegedly sold to a Seattle sex trafficking organization last October by her boyfriend, he couldn't put it behind him. Even after he was able to successfully rescue his daughter, he still had so much rage about the whole situation that he wanted vengeance. That's why Spokane police say Eisenman began tracking the boyfriend, ultimately abducting and murdering him. The victim was hit with a cinder block and then stabbed to death and left in the trunk of a car that Eisenman abandoned in a remote area of North Spokane County. John Eisenman Sr. has been taken into police custody and charged with first-degree murder.
Wow. That's that's wild. And, it's interesting because I am vehemently against going and seeking justice for yourself in these circumstances. But I do have to say that in the past week or so processing my friend's murder, I've been sort of identifying a little bit more with the death penalty.
Totally.
And, I still don't quite buy it, but I have to say in my friend's case, I am quite relieved that her family doesn't have to deal with a trial and such while grieving their daughter. I'm glad he's dead and that it's just sort of done on her behalf. And I never thought I would feel that way. I always thought I would want to see the person get real justice or whatever, but I kind of get.
Well, I mean, that's a bit of real justice. At least he's not able to hurt anyone ever again.
Agreed.
At least he's not not able to have a nice, happy life after doing something like this. So that I think is great. I hate the death penalty, and like I have my principles, but of course you have feelings that are different from time to time. It's like, I love a good revenge movie. It's actually one of my favorite plots, and I'm always rooting for the one who's out for revenge.
Me too.
But in real life, I guess you just can't murder people who wrong you.
I get
so
it. It's just, but I also understand why you would want to.
Yeah, I understand how helpless he must have been feeling.
Right.
And he felt like he couldn't do anything else about it. So that's really just unfortunate all around. But I guess at least the daughter is safe.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, before we get into our story, we just want to say that while our tone is light in the intro, we do take the topics we're discussing very seriously. We are best buds, and we love chatting together every week and turning it into a podcast. We want to share that passion with you and to create a vibe where all of you feel like our best buds too. We joke about us friends forming a cult or commune, but that's not to diminish the severity of actual cult activity, which we do occasionally talk about in our weekly stories. We feel it's important to open up and talk about even the darkest aspects of humanity and the downright scary things that come up in the news. But we want to make it clear that our intention is never to sensationalize, and we always try to deliver these stories with respect to all parties involved or affected by the crimes we discuss.
We always post our sources in the episode description, so you can do some digging on your own if a story we present piques your interest. But you should know that if you ever feel we get it wrong, either in our tone or in the details of the case, we want to hear about it. We are more than happy to make a correction or give an update on a case we've discussed in previous episodes. So feel free to reach out to us at murdermurdernews@gmail.com. Some possible trigger warnings for this episode include schizophrenia, grave desecration and abuse of a corpse. If any of those subjects are particularly sensitive for you, feel free to skip this one and listen to one of our other episodes instead.
This week in true crime history, on November 2nd, 2011, Anatoly Moskvin was arrested in Nizhny Novgorod, Russia's fifth largest city, by investigators from the Center for Combating Extremism. Police were investigating a series of hate crimes consisting of a number of Muslim graves having been defaced. Moskvin, well known in the area as a resident graveyard creep, was the first person anyone had suspected of desecrating the graves in question. It turned out that Moskvin was not responsible for the hate-driven vandalism that initially led investigators to his door, and this charge was later dropped, but officers found more than they bargained for in Anatoly's apartment. No minimalist, Anatoly Moskvin's home was decorated with tall stacks of books and papers, shelves, tables, and sofas full of knickknacks, which overflowed into the garage. Among the knickknacks sat dozens of large dolls, posed as if sitting, reading, or doing other daily activities. Upon closer inspection, some of the knickknacks hinted at Moskvin's dark habits. Metal nameplates that had been pried off of headstones, a vast collection of maps detailing all the cemeteries in the region, photographs and videos depicting open graves and disinterred bodies piqued their interest, and investigators decided to spend a while chatting with Anatoly and going over the contents of his apartment with a fine-tooth comb. The large dolls were certainly creepy, but the cops couldn't ascertain exactly what it was about the dolls that put them on edge until they discovered Moskvin's homemade instruction manual on how to make the dolls. Reading through the booklet, their jaws dropped in horror as they discovered that hidden inside each of the 26 dolls found in the apartment were the dead bodies of previously buried women and girls between the ages of 3 and 25 years old.
Oof. Creepy.
Yeah. Very.
His unique doll-making method began with exhuming the corpse, which he then treated with a combination of baking soda and salt. Then he would find a good hiding spot in or around the cemetery where the body could sit unnoticed as he allowed it time to dry out. That's so interesting because I guess like maybe people aren't in these cemeteries very much, but you would think that would, people would see
I don't
that.
know if it's like a certain time of day that he goes. Yeah, because people visit their relatives, of course, at any random time, I would say, unless he's going in there when the cemeteries are closed. But
Yeah,
I don't
even
know.
creepier nighttime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Digging. Oof. Once dry, he would bring the bodies home and would wrap the limbs in strips of cloth and stuff the body cavity with rags and padding to compensate for the withering and shrinking that happened as the bodies dried. Sometimes he would create wax masks for the faces, decorating them with nail polish. He then dressed them in brightly colored clothing and wigs, some of which he had stolen from other graves he had opened. Some of the dolls had music boxes implanted inside of their rib cages so that they could sing.
Yeesh.
Very, very unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
One doll had a piece of the girl's own gravestone with her name on it inside her chest. Another had a dried human heart inside her chest. Yet another had a hospital tag listing her cause of death inside her chest. The array of nameplates, photographs, and other accoutrements found around the apartment, which Moskvin had swiped from graveyards he had visited, turned out to be unrelated to the bodies found inside his dolls. While 26 bodies were uncovered that day, it is believed that Anatoly Moskvin was responsible for the desecration of up to 150 graves in the region.
That's pretty prolific.
Oof, yeah. So upsetting.
Yeah. So who is Anatoly Moskvin? And why was he able to go on for so long as a renowned graveyard creep without coming under the suspicion of local authorities? According to his peers, Moskvin is actually a genius and a well-regarded historian. He's a linguist who graduated from the philology faculty of Moscow State University and then went on to lecture in Celtic studies at the Nizhny Novgorod Linguistic University. A polyglot who speaks 13 languages, Moskvin is well known in academic circles and has written several books, papers, and translations. He kept a library of over 60,000 books and documents. A self-proclaimed necropolist, or expert in cemeteries and the dead, Moskvin also regularly contributed to local newspapers and publications, in particular a weekly paper titled Necrologies. In 2005, Anatoly was commissioned by publisher Oleg Ryabov to summarize and list the dead in more than 700 cemeteries in 40 regions of the Nizhny Novgorod Oblast. In the 2 years that followed, Moskvin set off on foot to explore 752 cemeteries, walking up to 19 miles a day. He was so dedicated to his work that he would spend the night outside in the cemeteries or at abandoned farms nearby, sometimes sleeping in haystacks, and once he even slept inside a coffin that was being prepared for an upcoming burial. In his studies of Celtic culture, he learned that ancient druids slept on graves to facilitate communication with the dead, and that the ancient Yakuts of Siberia also had a similar practice. It seems that this is what he'd been trying to achieve while spending nights in the graveyards. He'd been stopped occasionally on his travels by police who would question him about vandalism and theft that had taken place in the cemeteries he'd visited, but he was always let go upon stating his purpose and sharing his academic credentials. This particular work that was commissioned has never been published, but the editor of Necrologies, Alexei Yesin, has described it as unique and priceless. Yesin also described Moskvin as a quirky loner, but after his associate's arrest, Alexei Yesin was sure that there had been some sort of mistake and that Moskvin would be exonerated. He said that despite being a bit of a weirdo, Anatoly had never given any indication that he was up to anything unusual.
Anatoly Moskvin is indeed a loner, living a secluded life in which he has never married or even dated, and he claims to be a virgin even now at the age of 55. Prior to his arrest, Anatoly had always lived with his parents. Spending much of their time away vacationing at their country home, his parents had obviously spotted the dolls in their home they shared with their son, but they'd never witnessed his doll-making process and had never suspected anything out of the ordinary about their son or his doll collection. Elvira and Yuri Moskvin, then in their late 70s, told authorities, "We thought it was his hobby to make such big dolls. We did not see anything wrong with it." Even the neighbors hadn't suspected a thing. They described the historian as quiet and his parents as nice people and dismissed the odor emanating from their home as typical musty basement smell.
His borderline obsession with death, cemeteries, and the occult began in early childhood. Moskvin shared a story in his last article written for the publication Necrologies, which he claims took place when he was 13 years old, but the details cannot be verified. He had already taken a particular interest in cemetery walks, which he regularly took all by himself. On one such walk through the cemetery, while Anatoly was on his way home from school, he came across the funeral procession of an 11-year-old girl named Natasha Petrova. He says that a group of men dressed in black suits stepped out from the crowd and swooped Anatoly up, insisting that the boy join them for Natasha's funeral. The girl's casket was open, and the men told young Anatoly that he must kiss her, forcibly pushing his head down into her casket.
Oof.
There was nothing I could do but kiss her as ordered, he said.
That sounds very traumatizing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yikes.
Apparently, the girl's mother had been standing by with 2 rings and shoved one of the rings onto Anatoly's finger and another onto the finger of the dead girl, proclaiming that the children were now married.
Wow.
So, yeah, that gets a little more traumatizing.
Wow.
If this story is true, like, it's no wonder that he grew up to be a creep because, wow.
Gosh, so strange.
Yeah. Anatoly went home and couldn't shake the memory of his wedding to the dead girl, Natasha Petrova. He says he dreamt of her regularly in the months and years to come. He dreamt that his young wife was trying very hard to entice him into using black magic. The girl in his dreams let him know that their wedding ceremony had been his introduction to black magic, and that now he must continue to practice black magic throughout his life. The experience greatly affected Moskvin's academic trajectory and inspired a lifelong interest in the occult and basically all things surrounding the subject of death.
In an interview that took place shortly after his arrest in November of 2011, Moskvin explained that he felt a great sympathy for the dead children he had collected, and that he believed he would eventually find a way to bring them back to life, either through science or black magic. He began his collection around 1990 when he came across an obituary in the paper that, quote, spoke to him. He found that child's grave and spent the night sleeping on top of the burial plot in an effort to determine whether the child desired to be brought back to life. Moskvin heard what he wanted to hear and was convinced that the child wished to be brought back home with him and was determined to find a way to resurrect her. Laying atop the grave, Moskvin said he would often hear the bodies below, quote, asking me to take them out for a walk. Yeah. Oof. No.
Please don't.
Yeah. After some years, Moskvin's body grew older and it got more uncomfortable for him to sleep on the ground and more difficult for him to, quote, hear the voices of the children buried below. He decided to start bringing the bodies home where it could be more comfortable for him to sleep near them and where he hoped the dead would be more comfortable communicating with him in private.
Moskvin said that he was aware that what he'd been doing was a crime, but he thought it was more important to listen to the needs of the dead children than it was to obey the law. He also may have been motivated by his desire to have children of his own. Once he had applied to adopt a child, but had been rejected due to low income. So I guess he decided to try another tact.
Oh my God, what if he was able to adopt a child? Oof.
That would be even worse. I mean,
Very
this
upsetting.
is horrific, but
Yeah.
At least his victims don't know what he subjected them to.
Agreed.
Yeah. Moskvin marked down the birth dates of each of the girls that he brought home, and he would celebrate each of their birthdays with parties that he would hold in his bedroom, as if they were his own children. Some of the dolls had buttons or other objects inserted into the eye sockets so they could, quote, watch cartoons with Moskvin. The Russian media called him the Lord of the Mummies and the Perfumer, after Patrick Susskind's novel, Perfume. Moskvin's elderly parents feel so ostracized from their own community since their son's arrest that they've suggested maybe they would be better off killing themselves. This is just really unfortunate shockwaves he sent through the community, you know?
Yeah.
At the time of his arrest, Moskvin told detectives not to rebury the girls too deeply because he planned to come and gather them again once he was free.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
When the parents of his last victims lashed out at Moskvin, calling him a creature, he argued, you abandoned your girls in the cold, and I brought them home and warmed them up. Anatoly Moskvin was charged under the Article 244 of the Criminal Code for the desecration of graves and dead bodies, for which one can face up to 5 years in prison. But during a psychiatric evaluation, he was found to be suffering from schizophrenia, and the Leninsky District Court found that he was unfit to stand trial. Instead, he was placed under the care of a psychiatric clinic for an indefinite period of time. This verdict was accepted by the prosecution, who made no appeal. Re-examined almost annually, Moskvin was regularly recommended for the extension of a psychiatric treatment until 2018. In September 2018, his doctors petitioned the court to release Moskvin to outpatient care, believing that his schizophrenia was being properly managed by a combination of drugs and therapy, and that they believed he was no longer a threat to the community.
This suggestion caused a pretty big uproar in Russia. Understandably so.
Yeah.
Particularly for the parents of the girls whose bodies had been exhumed and appropriated by the so-called body snatcher. Natalia Chartimova's daughter, Olga, who had been abducted and murdered at just 10 years old, was one of the bodies discovered inside of Anatoly's dolls. She, like many of the parents, was vehemently against Moskvin's release, stating, quote, "He is incurable. If he's released, he will eventually stop taking his pills and will return to his sinister actions as he has promised to do." Chartimova feels that she will never get over the idea that she had unknowingly placed flowers on an empty grave for 9 years.
So sad.
Yeah. Olga's parents had a sinking feeling that something was amiss when they repeatedly encountered anonymous notes left by their daughter's gravesite, addressing her as Little Lady and signed Dobry Angel, or Kind Angel. But the truth was beyond the couple's wildest nightmares. Olga's father, Igor, said, quote, "It was not like a sick joke, but like a spear through our hearts. I had her for 10 years. He had her for 9, Natalia lamented.
In 2019, the hospital withdrew their petition, determining that it would be premature to release Moskvin at the time, and he still required dedicated inpatient psychological treatment. His hospital stay has been renewed every 6 months since then. Asked to apologize for his crimes just last year in 2020, Anatoly declined, saying, "These girls are girls. There are no parents in my view. I don't know any of them. Besides, they buried their daughters, and this is where I believe their rights over them finished."
Yikes. It's just like, I feel the creepiest thing about all of this is that, he's a genius. People are really interested in his writings and what he has to say. And with all of that, they somehow missed like the very askew parts of his mind, like clearly if he believes that, he's warmed up these girls and kept them company and that their parents somehow abandoned them by burying them after they passed away. I mean, he's got a few things off kilter.
I mean, I get it. Like, I talk about death a whole lot too. But are there pictures available of the dolls?
Yes, there are. And we'll post some at least on our Patreon newsletter, but you can put them on our Instagram or something too. There's some really, they're weird looking. Yeah.
I'm about to go look, and
Okay.
this will be my live reaction. Okay, this one's hard to see. It doesn't look like a person. It looks like it's made out of paper or something.
This is because like he'll cover their faces. Like a lot of them, I think all of them were covered with like a stocking to hold everything together. And then some of them he'd made these wax masks for.
I see.
And put, wigs that he found and stuff in there. So it's like they really don't look like people. They just look like weird big dolls. And
they do look like weird big dolls.
It just seems a bit kooky. And you're like, what is this weird giant doll thing? But yeah, I guess it smelled a little bit more like mummies, whatever that smells like. But
yeah. This is really
Thanks.
creepy. And there's one that's kind of like a side-by-side comparison of like an adorable blonde girl. Oh gosh, it makes me so sad to think about like all these children dying so young too. Like I hadn't really processed it until I saw these photos of them.
Right.
But oh God, how tragic. So cute, so sweet.
Yeah.
But this one, like seeing her like in a pink jacket and then like the real live girl next to her is very unsettling.
Yeah. And like, I think
There's a similarity.
with that one, I think that was the one that was Olga that we were talking about.
see.
And I think her parents had said they looked at the pictures of like the other dolls, but they hadn't been able to bring themselves to look at the photo of their daughter as a doll. Because
Gosh.
obviously like that's more than unsettling. That's just like they're already totally devastated by just the idea of it. So, you know.
Wow, these are not like as like spooky looking as I thought they would look. Like I was
No.
wondering how the police would not understand that these were like human dolls at first until they found his books about his process. Like I'm like, how would you not know? Like there must be like a smell and like a leathery look and whatever. But they're very creepy,
Nope,
but
they
not
don't look like people.
what I imagined. Yeah.
It's creepy. It's creepy that they don't look creepier because like that's how much more it could be under your nose without you realizing, you know?
Oof.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, you know, the disturbing history of Russia's Lord of the Mummies, as they say.
Incredibly disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for TV this week, I watched something that's sort of in the realm of true crime. I watched this animated comedy called Inside Job. Have you heard of that or seen it at all?
I haven't. No.
So the plot is that every kooky conspiracy out there about the government is real. And the main character, Regan, works at a secret government organization that runs all of the conspiracies and basically tries to keep it under wraps from the general public. And it stars Lizzie Kaplan as Regan.
I love her.
Yeah, she's great from Mean Girls, etc.
Yes.
And it's a nice light watch. I would recommend it to any of you who feel that seasonal depression creeping in, which it's a little bit, lighter and funnier than real true crime stories at the moment.
Right.
I also went to see the new Marvel movie, which I'm going to butcher this name. I know it, which that was a running joke in the film as well. But it's called something like Shang-Chi. I know I say that wrong, but I saw it in theater. This was my first visit to the movie theater since the pandemic hit. And it was actually a great experience. There was like 6 people in the theater, which was very low stress for me. There was no one sitting anywhere near me. But I guess, it's not very sustainable for the film industry. So hopefully we find some way to work around this. Cause I don't know.
That sounds
like
great.
Picturing.
Cause like you and I, when we would go see movies together, when I was in Montreal, would go like midday to like an empty theater. And that's always been my favorite experience. I never, ever want to be in a crowded theater. It's just too much for me. And especially
anytime
now.
there's kids there. And especially now. It's like I find, kids will not stay in their seat. They'll run around and bug you. And it's like, that's annoying at the best of times. But this is not the best of times. This is a weird pandemic situation. And I'm glad to be separated from humans. But I hope that the movie industry can sustain itself in sort of what people do go out to the theater or however else they're working around the low ticket sales. But I do enjoy it at the moment that it is very dead. And the movie was also super good. Like maybe my favorite Marvel movie, which like I actually like the superhero genre quite a bit, despite otherwise hating action films. But this movie was more than just a superhero movie. It had its own like Chinese folklore tales, which I much prefer.
That.
Yeah, I love it much more than the like Greek god vibe that bros the world over go gaga for.
Yeah, not my thing.
Plus, this one had Awkwafina, who is just a treat.
She's great.
It's pretty visually stunning too, which I guess I could probably say about anything on the big screen after watching movies on my 42-inch television for the past 2 years. But
oh my God.
It was a good time.
I'm even jealous of 42 inches. I watch everything on my like 13-inch laptop. And I haven't been to a movie theater yet. And I've been like thinking about going, I forget what movie my friend Fanny wants to see so badly. Dune, which I still haven't seen.
I saw it, but I downloaded it. But
Yeah.
I mean, no, I didn't.
Right. I was like thinking about making my first movie experience like at a VIP kind of like recliner seat theater where there's not many people in it, but it still feels like a little weird. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm thinking about doing that sometime soon.
Yeah, actually, I wonder about the VIP now because there's a theater right in Montreal that has started offering the VIP option, which is nice because when you were living here, we had to drive off the island to go to the VIP cinema, which of course serves food and booze. So once you're eating and drinking, you don't really want to have to drive back home.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have something like in the city where you can just like take the metro or whatever.
Absolutely.
So we do have that now. I will be checking that out as soon as possible because I just love the VIP theater, thing. But it's just, I don't know. I wonder too if that would be sustainable, or maybe that's the best option. Maybe we just make all the theaters VIP. You got lazy boys. Everyone's nice and spaced
everybody
out.
wants
We
a
pay
lazy
more
boy.
for it, but we love it.
I would definitely rather pay more than be packed into a theater with a bunch of people coughing.
Yeah. And just make it more of a
COVID has
treat.
changed
We'll
me.
go more rarely, but we'll make it fancier. And just like, I feel like that's a good way to approach everything because like, as we have been doing precious little in the past couple of years, like socially or like event wise, like the few that we do get are more exciting. So let's just make it like that. And then we'll spend more time at home. At least people, introverts like me, will enjoy the time in between. We don't have to go out every day. What the heck?
Yes.
Anyway, what have you been watching? Anything?
I had like a horror marathon over the weekend because I don't usually watch scary movies because I'm a big baby. But we watched Poltergeist at our little Murder News Zoom-a-ween party. Thanks for everybody who attended.
How did you like Poltergeist, by the way? You had never seen it before, so
it was good.
Did you dig it?
I thought it was not that scary, which was good.
I know.
Because I think the way that we did horror in the 80s was like this like very intense, like bam, bam, bam. Like you can feel the people doing lines of cocaine between takes. Like it's so intense.
like let's do it to the max,
right? Like the 80s were all about that. So it was good. I enjoyed seeing it finally. The bone scene with the infamous curse of the real human bones,
the real
scene,
skeletons.
Was not like quite what I imagined it. It was interesting, but I enjoyed it. I was not scared after, so that was good.
That's great. I knew it. It's like that's what I mean. It's like not a super scary movie. It's a good movie, but it's like, it's a little bit. I guess at least in retrospect, when we're watching this 80s movie now, it's like its scares are like a bit predictable cheese kind of stuff. So you're like, this is, palatable. It's not like, what the fuck? So yeah, that was a good one. What other horrors did you watch?
I watched the next day, The Conjuring, which kind of like, in a similar vein. And that was good. That was really scary.
I find The Conjuring pretty scary.
Yeah, that was pretty scary. And I watched Halloween Kills.
Oh, that must have been scary, I bet.
Not really.
No?
I've seen
the last Halloween movie was so scary. Like, but for other reasons. At least I think it was the last one, like the Rob Zombie treatment. That one was scary as hell. But his movies terrify me. Like, is it like House of a Thousand Corpses? Like the first. Yeah. Like I remember watching that when I was in college and just being like. No, I will never sleep again. It was terrifying. Like I had nightmares about it for weeks. But I didn't see the 2018 Halloween movie. Maybe I'll go back and watch that during the daytime at some point. But the new one, I did not find to be that scary. It did have Real Housewife, Kyle in it. Probably any Housewife fans already know that Kyle Richards is in it. That's hilarious.
But she was in it as a kid. She was in either the first or second one. She was like a little girl. Like in
that's cool.
Yeah.
So she like reprised maybe her position in that movie.
She did. They have like like it was actually kind of interesting. They have like a scene or like several scenes. It's like honestly a good big part of the plot is that they have survivors of Michael Myers like coming together to like. Let's put an end to this. And they're like in an auditorium talking about like their experiences and stuff.
That's never going to happen. He'll always be back.
Yeah, for sure. But it was okay. I didn't love it. I would have liked more Jamie Lee Curtis and less other
Yeah, I
people
love
just
Jamie Lee
dying
Curtis.
in really obvious ways. Like, pay attention, people.
Yeah.
But that
That's
was good.
cool.
And then also I'm watching my new favorite watch that I've watched in a while is Lock and Key on Netflix. Have you seen it?
I haven't, but I've been hearing a bit about it. Apparently, that's what Britney Spears is watching now that she's allowed to watch whatever she wants,
Well,
I
hey,
guess.
Brittany, please add us.
Yeah. We have a lot in common.
I'm here to
we
talk
watch
about
the
Lock
same
and
TV
Key.
shows.
Yes.
Here we go.
I can't sing or dance, but
what is Lock and Key exactly?
so it's like a magic show, which right away had me interested. And it's about a family that their dad has just passed away. He was actually murdered. So there is a little bit of that. And we don't quite know why he was murdered. We're getting like little like flashbacks of it. But the family is moving back to the house that he's from. I think it's like supposed to be Massachusetts kind of thing. Like they're moving West Coast to East Coast. And it's called I think it's called the Key House. And their family last name is Locke. And they have like this whole history of having this like house that everybody in the town talks about, and supposedly like bad things happen there, or there's a kind of like this dark cloud over the family. And the little kid in the family starts discovering that there's these magic keys around the house, and they do like these weird things. Like there's like a key that, and when you put it in a door, you open the door and you can go through any other door that you've ever seen. Like it can be a picture of it or whatever. So you could like walk into a door of an ice cream parlor or this, or like, you know, like your grandma's house or whatever. And some of them do good things. Some of them kind of have like some maybe like uses that you could use for bad. And he discovers this kind of like demonic creature in a well at their house that at first he thinks is a friend, but she's just trying to get the keys from him and trick him. And like things start to like spiral and go bad. And the family is kind of like trying to protect these keys. And it's very cool. The second season just came out, and I am almost done with the second season over the course of one weekend. So that's how much I love it. I don't usually watch many shows like that.
Definitely bingeable.
Yes.
All right.
Highly recommend.
Awesome. Also, speaking of Rob Zombie, did you hear that he's doing The Monsters? Did you ever watch The Monsters?
I've never watched The Munsters. Like I definitely know about the show. Like I know it's comparison to kind of like an Addams Family kind of thing.
It's like an Addams Family, but it's honestly a little bit lighter and fluffier and, you know, cuter and funnier. It's like not, it's a little bit less dark is what I mean to say. And so that's where I find it very strange that Rob Zombie has taken this on, because as we discussed, he makes things that are freaking terrifying. So what the heck is he going to do with The Monsters? I don't know. I'm not sure I'm into it.
I think I read about that, or I read about him taking on another movie that I wouldn't have guessed would be a horror movie. And I thought the same thing, like, why is he doing this? Are we going to get like a scary version? So maybe I had read about The Monsters, but I didn't know it wasn't a spooky show. So I don't know.
It's slightly spooky. Like it's like for spooky people for sure, but it's not like there's not scary. Yeah, exactly. There's no scary elements. Right. So, I mean, I guess now there will be. I don't know.
I will watch it.
Yeah, I guess I will too. See what
like
it is.
I changed my mind. Yes, I
will. I just don't know about it. That's all I'm going to say.
Try to stop me from watching a Halloween movie.
I'll complain possibly while watching it, but you still can't tear me away.
Right.
Well, I guess that is enough murder for 1 week. If you need more, you can always find us on murdermurder.news for the latest breaking true crime news articles every day of the week.
You can also find us on Instagram at Murder Murder News, where this week we shared pictures of all of our Halloween costumes from this year, which were super cute. We both looked very cute.
Yeah. Go check it out.
Yes. And you can find us on Twitter at Murder News. And we recently got a retweet from Elizabeth Banks. What?
I love that. I love it. Hi, Elizabeth Banks. Thanks.
Man, it was so cool. It blew my mind because like I saw that we had gotten a lot of like likes on something on Twitter, but like Y'all, I've been a zombie this past week. I've been so checked out after my friend's passing, which I shared last week. And I usually run our social media, and you may have noticed there's been like no new posts because I've just been a disaster and functioning at like 30% capacity. So when I got on and was like, why are we like, I haven't even posted, like what's happening? And I saw that it was because Elizabeth Banks had retweeted us. I died. I love her.
Yeah. And after you told me that, I saw her on the Late Show the next day, and I was like, oh man, I'm going to watch it. Maybe she'll talk about how much she loves Murder News. We're not there yet, but
no, she's not listening to us. She just liked our like a meme we shared, but maybe she's listening. Elizabeth Banks, call us.
Yes. For no reason. I know you have nothing murdery to say, but we love you.
All right. So you can also find us on TikTok at Murder News, where we shared a story from Halloween history about the murder of Martha Moxley, as well as a video about missing person Kimberlana Yellowhair. You can find us on Facebook. If you just search for Murder News, you'll see our page pop up.
And when you're on Facebook searching for Murder News, you'll also see our Facebook group pop up. You'll want to join us there to chat about all things true crime, but also to stay in the loop about our upcoming virtual events and also our book club selections. This month we're reading I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I have only just recently learned was a book before it was a movie or TV series.
Me too.
So I'm excited to read. So please join our group, check out that book, and we can discuss it on Zoom on Sunday, November 28th, which is actually the day before my birthday. So make sure to stop by and celebrate with me.
Yes. And we actually just decided on that book during our Zoom Halloween party. So thanks for everyone who was there and contributed to that. That was a great suggestion. So definitely come to our live events because we do make fun decisions like that on the spot.
Yeah, and you want to be part of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do not forget that if you love our show, you need to let us know by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast listening platform of choice. 5-star reviews really help keep us afloat. They help new fans find our show, and they help us know which content you've been loving the most so we can keep creating more of what you like.
Thanks again for listening. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you back here next Friday.
Bye, friends.
Bye.